Ethan Carter knew the city of Chicago in every season. Its streets wound through his memory the way pipes threaded through the buildings he serviced each day. On this particular Monday, he awoke to the roar of winter winds clawing at his bedroom window, a noise so persistent that it nearly drowned out the buzzing of his phone. Rubbing the last vestiges of sleep from his eyes, he snatched up the device, expecting to see another mundane job request. An address, a simple clogged drain, or a leaky faucet. Maybe an urgent message from a small restaurant in need of a quick fix before the lunch rush. Instead, the screen displayed a single, cryptic text. "I need your assistance, Ethan Carter. It's urgent. Please come." The address that followed was in an unfamiliar part of town, an upscale area dotted with mansions that stood aloof from the bustle of daily life. He was puzzled, but not alarmed. People with money often demanded immediate service, and if there was one thing Ethan prided himself on, it was his reliability. He never left a client in distress. He hurried through his morning routine, shrugging on thick work pants and his trusty jacket, gulping down coffee that was still too hot, then rushed out into the biting cold. His trusty van, lovingly called Old Jerdy, was already chugging along to warm up. Ethan loaded it with his tools, gave the engine a cautious listen, then guided the vehicle onto Chicago's slick streets. He knew the route well until he reached a place where the roads widened, the traffic signs became scarcer, and the usual crowds thinned. Tall, elegant gates loomed ahead, modern in design, but somehow reminiscent of ancient ruins. They glowed faintly, as though channels of light and energy were flowing through them. He parked outside, heart pounding with a mix of curiosity and hesitation. Should he ring a bell? There didn't seem to be one. Instead, he approached the gate and, with a gentle push, found it gliding open of its own accord. A narrow driveway led to a mansion that seemed more futuristic fortress than home. Its surfaces shimmered with a metallic sheen, reflecting the gray sky in a kaleidoscope of silver and white. Stepping out of his van, Ethan felt an uncanny stillness. No usual city clamor, no distant rumble of trains, not even the faint honk of a taxi. The hush was almost supernatural. He looked around, expecting some butler or caretaker to greet him, but no one appeared. Then, as though in response to his thoughts, the front door opened. Out stepped a woman, striking in a way he could not immediately comprehend. Her skin radiated a subtle green luminescence, like moonlight filtering through jade, and her eyes sparkled with an otherworldly glow that hinted at galaxies yet unseen. She wore a flowing robe that clung to her slender figure, shifting color from pale lavender to deep midnight blue as she moved. And when she smiled, it was as though an entire cosmic vista had blossomed in that single gesture. "Ethan Carter," she said, voice smooth yet tinged with a tremor of anticipation. "Please come in. I've been waiting for you." He swallowed, forcing his mind to recalibrate. Was this some elaborate stunt? He had seen plenty of eccentric clients, but never one quite so alien. The perplexity of it all momentarily weighed him down, but his sense of professional duty kicked in. He cleared his throat, tipped his cap politely, and followed her inside. The mansion's interior was even more astounding. Glowing orbs floated near the ceiling, pulsating with subdued light that flickered between turquoise and amber. Strange murals depicted constellations, swirling galaxies, and images of elongated figures that looked like they might be ancient guardians of some distant star system. The floors, made of an unidentifiable polished stone, reflected their surroundings with crystal clarity. Ethan's booted feet echoed in the vast halls as the woman led him forward. She moved elegantly, her feet almost gliding over the ground. He couldn't resist glancing at the smooth curve of her green shoulders or the shimmer of her robe. She was otherworldly, yet so poised and natural in her environment that he started to feel like he was the anomaly. At last, they arrived at a sprawling room dominated by an intricate metal console. Tubes and pipes crisscrossed in impossible configurations. A soft humming resonated from these structures, like music from an unseen orchestra. With her slender hand, the woman gestured to the contraption. "My name is Lyra," she said. "My home is not from this city or even this planet. I have traveled far, and I need you to fix something that is broken." She paused, her luminous eyes searching his face for understanding. "I was told you were the best plumber in Chicago, and that I could trust you." Ethan exhaled slowly. I've never worked on anything quite like this, he said, nodding toward the labyrinth of pipes. But I'll do my best. Could you explain what's gone wrong? A curious smile curved her lips. The system that sustains the fluidic energies here has become clogged. Or, more precisely, it is overloaded. The pipes once carried a specialized coolant and atmosphere required to maintain my environment. Yet now, the flow is restricted. The readings show the pressure is building beyond safety limits. If we cannot fix it, the entire system may fail, and with it, my reason for coming to Earth. Ethan moved closer, studying the pipes. Some were made of materials he recognized, steel, copper, but others looked to be fashioned from translucent tubes that glistened with swirling ribbons of color. He tested a valve, noticing the distinct hum of energy beneath his fingertips. It was as if these tubes were alive, throbbing with pulses of starlight. I'll do whatever I can, he said quietly, pulling out wrenches and specialized tools from his belt. His mind was reeling. Here he was, just a regular plumber from the Windy City, about to fix an alien's futuristic piping system. But work was work. He ran a thorough inspection, eyes sharpening as he noted the location of each pipe, each junction, and each suspicious buildup of that swirling fluidic coolant. As he began, Lyra hovered close, sometimes offering a strange instrument that looked like a futuristic diagnostic device. She read off data that Ethan tried to interpret. Together, they tested valves, released pressure from the lines, and cleaned out blockages. Despite the surreal nature of the task, Ethan felt a surge of confidence. Problem-solving, after all, was universal. At one point, a sudden jolt surged through the piping. A spark of greenish lightning cascaded over Ethan's hand. Instantly, Lyra seized his arm, concern etched across her glowing features. "Are you hurt?" she asked. Her touch felt electric, sending a small thrill through his body, part alarm, part exhilaration. Ethan shook his head to clear the sensation, inhaling shakily. No, I'm fine," he said, though his heart thumped a bit too fast. "Just a little shock." Lyra exhaled in relief, stepping back to grant him space. Yet her gaze never left him. In it, he could see a depth of gratitude and an undercurrent of something else, something akin to hope or longing. He brushed off the moment, focusing intently on the repair work at hand. He had a job to do. Hours passed. The process was delicate, requiring both mechanical skill and an intuitive sense of how the alien materials might respond. Slowly but surely, the pressure readings stabilized. The fluidic energies began to flow with renewed vigor. Colorful pulses traveled through the pipes, each swirl a testament to Ethan's expert handiwork and Lyra's calm guidance. I think that should do it," Ethan finally murmured, wiping sweat from his brow. The mansion's unusual atmosphere, thick with unearthly humidity, had left him drenched. Give it a few minutes to cycle through, but the immediate crisis looks resolved. Lyra touched a panel on the wall, and the hum that followed was lower in pitch, calmer, a sign of returning equilibrium. She looked at Ethan, a glow of triumph in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, voice trembling with earnest emotion. "I feared it might be too late." Ethan mustered a small grin. "I'm just glad it worked out. Usually, my biggest hurdles are old buildings, rusted pipes, or faulty water heaters. But this was new." She laughed softly, and the sound reminded him of distant wind chimes, melodic and enchanting. "Come," she said. "Let me show you a part of my world, in thanks for saving my refuge." She led him to a corridor that branched from the main hall. Like many passages in this mansion, it seemed to bend in subtle ways that defied standard geometry. The walls themselves gleamed, adorned with shifting patterns that felt alive. At the far end, a set of double doors parted to reveal a room that made Ethan gasp. Celestial vistas stretched across curved surfaces, illusions of cosmos swirling around them, complete with nebulae and star clusters set in vibrant hues. It was as if they stood in an observatory suspended in space, with the infinite blackness of the universe embracing them. Stars twinkled, cosmic dust shimmered, and entire galaxies spiraled in majestic slow motion. "This is my stargazer room," Lyra said gently, walking forward. "It's a projection, yes, but also a portal of sorts to my home. On nights when conditions are right, it allows me to contact my people across light years." Ethan was too enraptured to do much more than nod. He felt small yet exalted, like an ancient mariner gazing upon a new, breathtaking horizon. As he took a step closer, the stars seemed to part around him, revealing a swirling constellation he didn't recognize. "That's where I come from," Lyra pointed, her long, elegant finger tracing a path through the night sky. "A place far beyond what your telescopes can see. My people are known as the Celestrians. We're travelers, explorers, watchers. We arrive quietly on different worlds to learn, to share knowledge. But for me, I had another reason to come." She turned to him, her eyes reflecting starlight. There was a vulnerability there he hadn't expected. "I needed to find something. Or rather, someone." A gentle hush fell upon them. The cosmic projections glimmered, casting playful highlights upon Lyra's green features. Ethan, feeling a sudden wave of self-consciousness, cleared his throat. "I see. Well, He paused, uncertain if it was his place to ask. But the curiosity was too great. "Who did you come here to find?" Lyra paused as though choosing her words carefully. "On my world, we place great importance on the synergy between intellect and heart, between skill and compassion. Over time, we realized that to continue our evolution, some of us must seek partnerships beyond our race, forging bonds that expand our genetic and cultural horizons. I volunteered to come to Earth, believing that I might find someone who resonates with me, who can help me fulfill my purpose. I was told that among the many millions here, there would be individuals who exemplify boundless kindness, resourcefulness, and empathy." Something in Ethan's stomach twisted, a spark of apprehension laced with intrigue. "So you're saying you traveled all this way looking for a partner? A mate?" Her luminous cheeks flushed a deeper shade of emerald. She nodded, a soft shimmer in her eyes. "Yes, I know it sounds strange, but my people have done this before in other star systems. Our travelers found love, forged families, and created connections that changed the course of our collective future. Now it is my turn, and I believe you might be that person." The suddenness of her statement struck Ethan like a gale. He was just a simple plumber. How could he be pivotal in some interstellar quest for unity and love? Yet the way she looked at him melted his doubts. There was sincerity, a raw hope that had crossed galaxies to reach him. "But we just met," he said, voice trembling with the enormity of it. "I helped you fix your pipes." He almost laughed at how ridiculous it all sounded. "I mean, how could you possibly be sure about me?" Lyra stepped closer, placing her hand on his. A pleasant warmth radiated from her touch, cascading through his body. "We Celestrians have a way of sensing souls. It's not like reading thoughts, more like feeling the echoes of a spirit's essence. I felt yours the moment I saw you, and even more so when you risked harm to mend my failing systems. Your determination, your willingness to put my safety above your own, these traits ring true across light years. If you need time, I understand. But I would be honored to have you as my companion in this life's journey." Ethan's mind spun. It was too fast, too surreal. And yet, he couldn't deny the magnetic pull he felt toward her, a fascination that transcended mere physical allure. He managed a small laugh, shaking his head in wonder. "I guess the best partnerships sometimes come from the strangest of places." Lyra's face brightened with joy. A tear, shimmering in turquoise, threatened to spill from the corner of her eye. "Thank you, Ethan Carter," she whispered. "I hope to show you more of what our worlds can be together." Despite his initial shock, Ethan found himself returning to Lyra's mansion in the days that followed. He came first under the pretense of ensuring the newly repaired system continued functioning properly, but each visit stretched into hours of conversation. She introduced him to artifacts from her world, a crystalline sphere that sang melodies when held, a tapestry woven from starlight strands that glowed faintly in the dark, and devices that folded space in miniature illusions. In turn, he told her of his own life, how he'd grown up on the south side of Chicago, how his father had taught him the trade, how he often felt that the city's constant rush masked a collective loneliness. They shared simple human meals in a marble kitchen, though Lyra admitted she drew most of her nourishment from the light-infused energy that circulated through her home's revived systems. Yet she found the taste of Earth foods intriguing, especially fresh fruit and warm bread. Watching her nibble a slice of buttery toast with wide-eyed amazement filled Ethan's heart with inexplicable delight. As the days turned into weeks, their bond deepened. He found himself drawn to her wide-eyed curiosity about mundane Earth customs, like the concept of tipping servers in restaurants or the excitement over Earth holidays. When Christmas lights appeared throughout the city, he brought her downtown, letting her marvel at the twinkling decorations, the holiday music, and the swirl of snow that coated the sidewalks in white. She stared with childlike wonder, her emerald face painted with flickering reds and greens from neon signs. "You humans," she whispered once, pressing close to him as they strolled down a bustling street, "are so vibrant and so fragile. I see so much potential in you. In us." Ethan's breath caught, both from the cold air and her nearness. The warmth of her body was strangely comforting against the chill. "We do our best," he said lightly. "Sometimes we mess up, but if you look beneath the surface, there's a lot of goodness to be found." She nodded, face solemn. "I sense it every day now." Their moments of closeness were not without challenges. News traveled fast in their interconnected world, and rumors of a mysterious, glowing woman residing in a futuristic mansion began to swirl. Neighbors reported strange lights in the sky above the property, odd humming noises at night, and sightings of someone who appeared not quite human. The city's tabloids took note, eager for sensational headlines. One crisp afternoon, Ethan arrived at Lyra's mansion to find her in a state of agitation. She paced back and forth in the main hall, the orbs of light above them pulsing in time with her anxious steps. "There have been visitors," she explained, voice tight with worry. "Strange men with official badges. They asked questions I was not prepared to answer. They tried to scan my home with their devices." Ethan cursed under his breath. "Government agents, probably. Or maybe some private firm that caught wind of advanced technology. Don't worry. We'll handle this." Lyra sighed, her shoulders trembling. "I don't want conflict. My mission is to unite, not to invite hostility. If these people force me to leave or to surrender the knowledge I carry, it could endanger my entire species." Ethan rested a comforting hand on her arm. The crackle of her energy arced between them, and he felt that now familiar warmth. "We won't let that happen. If we have to, we'll hide the tech you have, or find a way to mask the signals. But we're not going to let anyone tear this life apart." Her luminous eyes softened with gratitude, and she nodded. "I trust you," she said, voice trembling with conviction. Over the next week, Ethan used all his Chicago know-how and street smarts to protect Lyra's sanctuary. He contacted an old friend who specialized in security systems. Together, they reinforced the mansion's perimeter with subtle dampeners designed to thwart unwelcome scans. He also arranged for new passcodes on gates, erecting a cover story that this was merely a new high-tech research lab for alternative energy. It worked to some extent. The prying eyes lessened, though rumors continued. Journalists occasionally camped beyond the gates, and a few even tried to slip onto the property, only to be thwarted by the advanced defenses. Through it all, Lyra maintained her dignity, her gentle presence a testament to her unwavering purpose. Amid these complications, their relationship blossomed. Late one evening, after a day spent fending off intrusive journalists, they found themselves in the Stargazer room once more. Dark projections shimmered overhead, revealing a cosmic ballet of swirling galaxies. Lyra stood by a curved wall of stardust imagery, her eyes reflecting a distant constellation. "It's been some time since I last tried to contact my people," she said softly. "I wanted to be sure the system was truly stable and secure before risking exposure." She looked over her shoulder, beckoning Ethan closer. "Would you join me in reaching out to them?" He nodded, heart pounding at the thought. She extended a slender finger to a crystalline console set into the wall. Gently pressing a sequence of runic symbols, she initiated a glowing web of light that flared through the room. The starfield shimmered, each point of light brightening until Ethan felt enveloped in a cosmic tide. He sensed rather than heard Lyra's thoughts as she reached across the void, summoning a connection that spanned eons. The swirling starlight intensified, forming a semi-translucent portal. Through it, ghostly shapes took form, tall, graceful figures with skin tones of varying luminescence. Soft, melodious voices resonated in an alien tongue, yet they also seemed to bypass the ear, echoing directly in the mind. Lyra's eyes shone with tears of joy. She conversed in a language Ethan couldn't fully understand, though he grasped the emotional currents flowing around them: relief, happiness, curiosity. Occasionally, she glanced at him, and her voice would shift, bridging words from that star language into English so that he might follow along. "They are pleased to see me," she explained, voice trembling with emotion. "They feared that my silence meant trouble. They're asking about the environment here, about the potential for alliance." Her cheeks warmed. "They're also curious about you." Ethan offered a respectful wave toward the shimmering figures. It was the most he could manage under the circumstances. Suddenly, one of the apparitions stepped closer. He felt a wave of calm envelop him, like a benevolent presence granting an unspoken blessing. Lyra smiled through tears. "That's my mother," she whispered. She approves." His heart felt impossibly full. In that moment, he understood the magnitude of what was happening. This wasn't just a personal connection. It was the convergence of two worlds, two species, bridging the gap of light years in an intimate, profound way. After a few more exchanges, Lyra ended the communication, the portal winking shut in a sparkle of cosmic dust. The room dimmed, returning to its soft ambient glow. She turned to Ethan, tears glistening on her emerald cheeks. "They want me to stay," she said, laughter and relief mingling in her voice. They sensed that Earth could be a place where alliances might be formed, where we might grow together. "They also trust you, Ethan. They trust you with my safety and with the friendship between our species." He stepped forward, arms instinctively wrapping around her. She let out a small sob, burying her face against his chest. He stroked her hair gently, the shimmering strands soft beneath his fingers, and murmured reassuring words. They stood like that for a long while, simply absorbing the miracle of their union. But storms sometimes rage hardest after a moment of calm. In the weeks that followed, the sense of unease around Lyra's mansion grew. Strange drones were spotted hovering near her property, capturing footage. Anonymous vehicles parked for hours along the streets, watching. Ethan's phone rang with unidentified numbers, which hung up whenever he answered. Then, one bleak morning, the unthinkable happened. The lights in Lyra's mansion flickered, her advanced systems hiccuped, and a deep hum resonated through the structure. Ethan, who had been tinkering with a minor pipe adjustment, rushed to check the main console. "What's happening?" he yelled above the rising din. Lyra, eyes wide with alarm, pressed frantic commands on a glowing interface. "Someone is forcing a feedback loop in the system. It's spiking the energy flow, building a surge that could fry everything." Ethan cursed. "I'll go manually shut down the pipelines in the basement, see if I can break the loop. Stay here and try to stabilize the central console." She nodded, and he sprinted away, sweat beading on his brow. Racing through the winding corridors, he reached the sublevels, a labyrinth of mechanical constructs and alien machinery. The pipes overhead glowed with an erratic pulse, arcs of energy zipping between them. He sensed the tension in the air, like a thunderstorm about to unleash its fury. With methodical precision, he shut off valves and manually rerouted flows. It took every ounce of skill he had, combined with his new understanding of Lyra's technology. Sparks flew, scorching his gloves, and he bit back a cry as a searing jolt stung his arm. Still, he pressed on, twisting the final valve shut just in time. A massive jolt rocked the building. Ethan slammed against the floor, his head spinning. Then, silence. The ominous hum died away. He stumbled back upstairs, rejoining Lyra at the console. She was hunched over the controls, breathing hard, tears slipping down her cheeks. "They tried to destroy everything," she said, voice quivering. "All my research, the portal to my people, even our chance at peace. It was sabotage." Ethan moved to her side, wrapping her in a gentle embrace. "But we stopped them," he murmured. "We'll have to watch our backs. Whoever did this isn't going to give up easily." Her expression hardened with a resolve he hadn't seen before. "Then we will be prepared," she said softly, her voice laced with quiet determination. "My mission here is too important to be undone by fear." For the next few days, they worked tirelessly, fortifying the mansion's systems and ensuring no further sabotage attempts could succeed. Ethan's phone continued to receive strange calls, and on more than one occasion, black SUVs lurked near the property, only to speed away as soon as he approached. In the midst of it all, a fiery devotion ignited within him. He realized that Lyra was no longer just a client or a passing fascination. She was his partner, in every sense of the word. One night, with the crisis seemingly held at bay, Lyra and Ethan found a moment of peace under the glow of the floating orbs. The tension of recent events weighed on them, yet there was also a tender closeness. They shared stories, he about his father's small plumbing shop and the day he first fixed a stubborn leak, she about her early training in interstellar studies and her longing for the unknown wonders of Earth. Eventually, a companionable silence settled, broken only by the steady thrum of the mansion's revitalized systems. Lyra turned to him, her eyes reflecting galaxies. "We Celestrians have a union ceremony," she said quietly. "It is not unlike your human weddings, but it's more than that. It's a spiritual and physical bond, our energies entwined. If we choose to perform it, we become linked in ways that span beyond time and distance." Ethan felt his pulse quicken. He recalled the near destruction of her home, the clandestine forces at work, the stark reality of their uncertain future. Then he looked into her eyes, and in that shimmering gaze, he found infinite tenderness. "I may not fully understand your customs," he replied, voice hushed with emotion, "but I do know this. My life has been changed in ways I never imagined. And I don't want to lose you, Lyra." She lifted a hand to gently cup his cheek. "Then will you stand with me? Will you share my life's path, wherever it leads?" A long pause. He considered his simple background, the threads of his earthbound existence. But the love he felt for this extraordinary being transcended all hesitations. At last, with a deep breath, he nodded. "Yes," he said, his voice trembling. "I choose you, Lyra." Tears glinted on her lashes, turning to tiny pearls of glowing turquoise as they fell. "Then let us do this." The union ceremony took place in the Stargazer room. In the center, they arranged a circle of luminescent crystals that pulsed in time with Lyra's heartbeat. She donned a ceremonial robe of woven starlight, and Ethan dressed simply in a charcoal suit. He felt oddly self-conscious, but Lyra's reassuring smile steadied him. She initiated the ritual by stepping into the circle of crystals. A faint cosmic wind stirred the air, and the illusions of stars overhead brightened until the entire room sparkled with celestial radiance. Holding out her hands, she beckoned Ethan to join her. As he stepped inside, the crystals brightened, responding to his presence. A wave of warmth enveloped them, and he felt as though he floated in the vastness of space. The swirling galaxies overhead seemed to close in, forming a cosmic cocoon around their small circle. Lyra began to speak in her native tongue, each word resonating in the air like music. Though Ethan didn't know the exact meaning, he felt the intent, a vow of unity, of devotion, of shared destinies. Then, without warning, an iridescent glow surrounded their intertwined hands, coursing up their arms. A sudden, exhilarating rush flooded Ethan's senses. He felt Lyra's essence, her memories of a distant star system, her training, her hopes, her fears, her boundless capacity for wonder. Simultaneously, she sensed him, his humble beginnings, his pride in his craftsmanship, the quiet ache of loneliness he once carried, and the steadfast loyalty that guided him. When the glow subsided, they both breathed in unison, their hearts beating as one. Tears streaked Lyra's cheeks, and Ethan's own eyes stung with emotion he'd never experienced. In that moment, words failed them. They simply pressed their foreheads together, letting the magnitude of their bond speak in silence. Time passed. Despite ongoing surveillance and the occasional rumor, Lyra and Ethan found a precarious balance. With clever maneuvers and subtle alliances, they managed to keep prying forces at bay. Word spread quietly among a few trusted individuals about the alien who had found a home and a mate in Chicago. Some were skeptical, others intrigued. A select few offered to help. It was in this tenuous lull that a letter arrived, bearing an official emblem. It demanded a meeting, implying dire consequences if ignored. Lyra and Ethan weighed the risks. They ultimately decided to comply, believing that a peaceful approach might pave the way for acceptance. They arrived at a discreet government facility on the outskirts of the city. The building was nondescript, faded brick walls, tinted windows, and an empty parking lot. Inside, they were greeted by a handful of stern-faced officials in suits. Leading them was a tall woman with steely eyes, identifying herself as Agent Rivera. "Thank you for coming," Rivera said briskly, motioning for them to sit at a long metal table. We have much to discuss. Lyra eyed the drab surroundings, tension evident in her posture. Ethan squeezed her hand in reassurance. Rivera cleared her throat. We're aware of your identity, Ms. Lyra. We know you're not from here. Our department has been monitoring you for some time, concerned about potential national security implications. Ethan tensed, but Lyra's voice rang with quiet grace. I understand your fears, she said, her tone gentle yet firm. And I respect your need for caution. I assure you, my purpose is peaceful. My only desire is to live here, learn from your people, and share what I can. A flicker of empathy crossed Rivera's face. She sighed, shuffling the papers in front of her. Our analyses show that the technology in your possession surpasses anything on Earth. If hostile powers gained access, or if you turned hostile, it could destabilize the global order. We can't ignore that. Lyra stood straighter, meeting the agent's gaze. I will never weaponize my knowledge against your planet. If there are terms, guidelines under which I can remain here safely, I'm willing to discuss them. Rivera pursed her lips, exchanging glances with her colleagues. Eventually, she nodded. We propose a compromise. You will register with our office under a special classification, an extraterrestrial liaison, so to speak. In turn, we offer you protection. We expect you to refrain from distributing your advanced technology without prior agreements. And we reserve the right to monitor your activities to ensure compliance. Ethan bristled. Sounds like you just want her under your thumb. Do we have a choice? Rivera's eyes softened, if only slightly. I know this is not ideal, Mr. Carter, but it's better than clandestine raids and indefinite detainment. We're offering a path forward, one where Ms. Lyra can continue her life with you, in peace, as long as certain boundaries are respected. A loaded silence fell. Lyra closed her eyes briefly, her delicate features drawn in concentration. Then, with a slow exhale, she met the agent's gaze again. Very well, she said. For the sake of security and harmony, I agree. But please, respect my privacy and the sanctity of my union with Ethan. Rivera gave a curt nod. That's all we ask for now. In time, we may request collaborative projects, avenues where your knowledge can benefit our world without risking widespread power imbalance. Ethan and Lyra exchanged a glance. Hope flickered between them, tempered by caution. We can handle that, Ethan said softly. Walking out of the facility, the winter sun setting behind them, Ethan and Lyra felt a strange mixture of relief and uncertainty. The future was still precarious, yet now they had an official understanding, an uneasy truce that might allow them to shape a shared destiny. That night, they returned home, exhaustion etched in every line of their faces. But as they entered the mansion, the orbs glowed in warm welcome. Lyra smiled, the tension draining from her shoulders. This place has become a true refuge, she murmured. And you, Ethan, you are my refuge as well. He drew her close, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. Their energies intertwined once more, an echo of their union ceremony. In that embrace, they found comfort, a promise that together they could face whatever lay ahead. Over the following months, a semblance of normalcy took shape. While cautious, Lyra began to venture outside more often. She accompanied Ethan on trips to nearby shops, parks, and even to his modest apartment before he eventually moved in with her at the mansion. They would stroll by Lake Michigan, feeling the crisp breeze off the water, marveling at the city's skyline shimmering in the distance. People were initially startled by Lyra's appearance, but she wore concealing garments, a wide-brimmed hat, long sleeves, tinted glasses. And though the rumor mill churned relentlessly, actual sightings were rare. A few curious souls mustered the courage to speak with her, to which she always responded with a gentle smile and polite conversation. Agent Rivera and her team maintained periodic check-ins, ensuring that no advanced technology leaked and that Lyra's presence remained benign. Surprisingly, a cautious respect formed between them. On more than one occasion, Rivera admitted a personal fascination with Lyra's knowledge of cosmic phenomena. She hinted at potential collaborative research in astrophysics or biotech. Meanwhile, Ethan continued his plumbing jobs across the city. The word of his special client spread quietly. His old friend joked that he had ascended to cosmic plumber, but Ethan never treated it as a boast. He maintained his humble demeanor, always returning to the mansion where Lyra awaited him with an otherworldly grace that warmed his heart. One spring morning, they decided to host a small gathering at the mansion. It was an attempt at bridging worlds on a more personal level. They invited a select circle: Ethan's old friend from the security setup, a few open-minded neighbors, and a local professor who specialized in exobiology. The professor had heard rumors about Lyra and was eager for a genuine encounter free of government oversight. The group arrived in a mix of excitement and apprehension. Lyra welcomed them with the polite warmth that had become her hallmark, guiding them through the mansion's grand halls. She demonstrated some of her technology in a measured way: a tiny light-well device that could cleanse water in seconds, a handheld orb that displayed real-time cosmic events in the Milky Way. Everyone watched in awe, their skepticism dissolving into wonder. They ended the tour in the Stargazer room, where the illusions of swirling galaxies captivated the guests. The professor stood transfixed, tears in his eyes. "To think we're part of something so vast," he murmured, "and that you've seen it firsthand." Lyra placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We are all children of the cosmos," she said softly. "Each of us carries a spark of starlight within." Ethan glanced around the room, heart swelling with pride. This moment felt monumental, not just for Lyra's acceptance, but for everyone's acceptance of one another. Later that evening, when the guests had departed, leaving behind murmurs of astonishment and gratitude, Ethan and Lyra retreated to the mansion's sprawling garden. Alien flora glimmered softly under the moonlight. Lyra had brought seeds from her world, which thrived in Earth's soil thanks to her unique energy system. Giant blossoms curled open at night, revealing luminous petals that changed color with each gentle breeze. They sat on a bench, arms entwined, gazing at the sky. Stars twinkled overhead, oblivious to the wonders unfolding below. Ethan inhaled the crisp air, the soft fragrance of unfamiliar flowers mingling with the city's distant hum. "You know," he mused, "when I got that call to come fix some pipes, I never imagined my life would change so drastically." Lyra laughed, a musical sound that lit the night. "And when I traveled across galaxies in search of a potential mate, I never pictured him as a plumber from Chicago." He squeezed her hand, a playful twinkle in his eye. "A plumber who's also your cosmic partner, don't forget." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I would not have it any other way," she said softly. "In fact, I'm starting to believe that the best surprises in life are the ones we never see coming." They rested in comfortable silence for a while, each lost in reflections of how far they had come. Here, in this improbable union, they found a sense of belonging that spanned more than just the boundaries of Earth. Eventually, Lyra spoke, voice laced with quiet conviction. "I have one more surprise for you," she said, turning to face him. She placed a hand gently over her abdomen, the emerald skin shimmering in the moonlight. Ethan felt his heart skip. "Lyra, are you saying?" She nodded, tears in her luminous eyes. "Our energies are entwined in more ways than we thought. I'm carrying life, Ethan, our child." It took him a moment to process. Emotions crashed over him: astonishment, awe, joy, and a trace of nervous anticipation. Then a beaming grin lit his face. He gathered her in his arms, pressing a tender kiss to her forehead. "This is incredible," he whispered, voice thick with emotion. "A child of two worlds." She looked up at him, love radiating from her gaze. "Perhaps that child will be a bridge, a symbol that our species can come together, that love transcends boundaries we once thought unbreakable." Ethan's eyes misted as he cradled her face in his hands. "I promise I'll always protect you both," he said. "No matter what challenges come, we'll face them together." And under the silver glow of the moon, surrounded by flowering alien blossoms and the distant hum of Chicago's lights, they shared a kiss that sealed their vows anew, a testament to the miracles that can happen when heart and fate align across the endless expanse of the universe. Epilogue: a happy ending under the stars. Several seasons passed, and life in the mansion found a new, radiant rhythm. Lyra's pregnancy was both wondrous and mysterious. Earthly doctors had never encountered a Celestian physiology before, so she relied on a mix of human prenatal care and the advanced healing chambers built into her home. Ethan, ever the supportive partner, attended every appointment, whether at a city clinic or in Lyra's own cosmic lab. Their child grew, nourished by both the starlight energy that coursed through Lyra's systems and the everyday warmth of earthly love. Word of an imminent hybrid birth reached the ears of Agent Rivera, who approached them with an uncharacteristic gentleness. "If you'd like, we can arrange for a discreet support team, medical experts who can learn from this experience without interfering," she offered, genuine compassion in her tone. They accepted, carefully screening any participants. In the end, a small circle of Earth doctors and a few of Lyra's kin, connected via the Stargazer room, collaborated to welcome the child. The day arrived quietly, the sky clear, the sun shining bright over Chicago's skyline. In a tranquil corner of the mansion, with advanced monitors glowing and Ethan holding Lyra's hand, a miraculous birth occurred. The baby's cry was unlike any other, a soft, melodic wail echoing with cosmic resonance. Tiny fingers, tinted a gentle pastel green, clutched at Ethan's strong hand. The child's eyes opened to reveal an interstellar swirl, a reflection of worlds yet to be discovered. Lyra wept tears of joy, which fell as shimmering turquoise droplets upon the infant's skin. In that moment, the room filled with an indescribable sense of awe. The Earth doctors stood speechless, some tears glistening in their own eyes. From the Stargazer portal came faint, melodious cheers from Lyra's extended kin, who witnessed the historic event across light years. Agent Rivera, standing quietly near the door, allowed herself a small, genuine smile. She recorded the event with reverence, acknowledging that this singular birth could herald a new chapter in human history. Over the subsequent months, the child, whom they named Celia, blossomed like a radiant star. She possessed a curiosity that rivaled her mother's and a grounded kindness that mirrored her father's. Sometimes, when the nights grew quiet, Ethan would hold Celia while Lyra explained the constellations swirling above in the Stargazer room. Celia's eyes sparkled with recognition, as if she could see beyond what the projections revealed, sensing her celestial heritage. The city of Chicago, ever resilient and multifaceted, gradually adapted to the idea of an alien living in a futuristic mansion. Although rumors persisted, a curious acceptance also took root. When news finally surfaced in a limited government press release, mentioning a friendly extraterrestrial visitor, the public reaction was a mix of wonder, skepticism, and eventual pride. A few demonstrations flared up, but were quickly overshadowed by the broader fascination. Lyra became something of a legend, a mysterious benefactor rumored to hold advanced knowledge, yet living quietly beneath the same sun as everyone else. With the mansion's advanced systems stabilized and Celia's care at the forefront, Ethan found a balance between fatherhood, husbandry, and his plumbing work. Old Gertie, his van, still rattled through Chicago's streets, but his life was richer, infused with a cosmic purpose he never could have dreamed of. Sometimes, as he fixed a leaky pipe in an old apartment building, his mind would drift to the memory of that day he first knocked on Lyra's door. A smirk would tug at his lips. Who would have thought a simple plumbing call could lead to interstellar romance and fatherhood? And Lyra, for her part, flourished in her new home. The thin line she once walked between cosmic traveler and lonely observer disappeared. She was no longer just an alien on a distant planet. She was a mate, a mother, and an ambassador of goodwill. She cultivated her alien flora in the garden, taught Celia about the wonders of Earth, and sometimes held late-night communications with her people across the stars. In these transmissions, Celia would toddle near, trying to imitate her mother's melodic alien speech. Laughter and love filled their home, bridging the gap between galaxies. As winter turned to spring, then summer to autumn, the seasons formed a gentle backdrop for a story that had once seemed impossible. The world outside continued its hectic pace, filled with politics, discoveries, and everyday human drama. But within the shimmering walls of Lyra's mansion, peace thrived, nurtured by devotion and understanding. The final piece of tension resolved one crisp afternoon when a formal agreement was signed between Celestian representatives, communicating through Lyra and a newly formed Earth Liaison Committee. The pact outlined shared research on environmental healing technologies, ways to purify water, restore damaged ecosystems, and harness clean energy. The world's powers, while cautious, tentatively approved. If Lyra's advanced knowledge could save the planet's dwindling resources, it was worth an attempt. The signing ceremony was modest, devoid of large public fanfare, yet it was a momentous milestone. Lyra and Ethan stood hand in hand, Celia perched on Ethan's hip, while Agent Rivera and a few dignitaries finalized the deal. There, in that hushed government hall, seeds of interplanetary cooperation were planted. The official parted ways with a sincere handshake, quietly acknowledging Ethan's pivotal role in protecting Lyra and bringing them to this positive outcome. As they left, Ethan caught his own reflection in a mirrored window. He saw a man changed, someone who had ventured into the extraordinary and emerged with a new sense of purpose, fatherhood, and cosmic wonder. That evening, back at the mansion, a gentle breeze rustled the glowing garden. Inside, they gathered in the stargazer room, bathing in the soft lights of distant galaxies. Lyra cradled Celia, while Ethan stood beside them, arms wrapped around his family. He pressed a soft kiss to Lyra's temple. "You ever think about the future?" he murmured, his gaze on the swirling starfields. She sighed happily, stroking Celia's tiny hand. "Yes, I imagine a time when our people move freely between worlds, sharing knowledge without fear. When Celia grows up, she'll walk among both species and see them as one family." Ethan's throat tightened at the thought. "I'd like that," he said softly. "I'd like our daughter to see a universe at peace." Outside the mansion, the city's lights glittered, shining in tandem with the heavens. In that moment, the boundaries between Earth and the cosmos felt thinner than ever, bridged by the love that united a humble plumber and a radiant traveler from distant stars. Lyra leaned into Ethan, their energies merging in a tranquil glow that encompassed Celia as well. The child cooed, her eyes bright with the cosmic inheritance she carried. Somewhere, light years away, the Celestians watched, hopeful for the dawn of a new era. In Chicago, the wind carried on, weaving through skyscrapers and rustling across wide avenues. But in one serene corner, sheltered by futuristic walls, a family thrived, an emblem of what was possible when open hearts defied the limits of space and time. With their hearts full and their paths irrevocably bound, Ethan Carter and Lyra gazed upward, welcoming whatever tomorrow might bring, assured by the joyful truth that they had found each other against all odds and begun a story destined for a bright, harmonious conclusion. And so, under the endless sky and amidst the promise of twinkling stars, their tale concluded with a happy beginning, one that would echo across the universe for generations to come.